It's really noisy. If you have so many complaints, how about leaving this house? It seems that my mother-in-law isn't very good at cooking, and to be honest, I feel like I'm in the way when I'm here. Maybe this situation is a good opportunity to find a new environment.
She immediately ended the call without saying anything, and it seemed like she had clearly turned off her phone. From then on, there was no contact from Brianna, and the elder daughter, Michelle, was angry and glaring with rage because of her attitude. To deal with Brianna's attitude, we seriously discussed how to respond, and during that, we received an innovative suggestion from the Michelle. After sharing the content of that suggestion with my husband, we showed great approval to proceed with it. As she suggested, how about we start a new life in a new place as well? Let's leave this house and make a fresh start.
That's one way to do it.
So, we decided to leave our home filled with years of memories, bringing only our precious memories and important things with us. My name is Claire, and I am 78 years old. Since my husband retired, we have been enjoying a slow life, just the two of us. We were planning to enjoy a delicious breakfast outside today as well, but our plans were suddenly interrupted by a visit from our eldest son and his wife.
Please, you're the only ones we can rely on.
Our eldest son, Finn, and his wife, Brianna, came to our house with serious expressions, as if they had something to plead. Discussing in public places can attract unwanted attention, so we decided to invite Finn inside. However, as soon as he stepped into the living room, he bowed deeply in a gesture of prostration. Although we were puzzled by his behavior, we felt that we should listen to what he had to say. So we waited for Finn to speak. His main purpose of visiting was a strong wish to live with us and share a life together, and behind that, there was a significant reason hidden: the delightful news that we would soon have a grandson.
Due to the nature of my job, I inevitably have to leave home frequently. Brianna is doing her best as a full-time housewife, but there are many anxieties about living in this unfamiliar land. We believe that with your support, we can alleviate some of those anxieties.
His job is a diver for the Coast Guard. This profession, often featured in movies and dramas, is well known for its danger and severity. As a husband and father who sometimes can't return home for extended periods, we expressed our heartfelt understanding of his position. Considering his background, it was easy to imagine that Brianna's new life alone would be filled with many uncertainties. We fully understand your feelings. So, Brianna, would you like to live with us?
Mother-in-law, I truly appreciate it.
I have experience in parenting in the past, and I have personally felt the hardships and difficulties that come with it. We don't know how much help we can be, but let's work together and overcome this. While gently holding her hand, I conveyed my heartfelt words. At that moment, a genuine smile of joy appeared on Brianna's face. However, behind that smile were her hidden intentions and plans, and I was unable to notice them at that time. Life in a two-generation household started smoothly. Fortunately, our family structure was on the larger side, so our house had a spacious layout. Finn, the eldest son, and then the eldest daughter, second daughter, and third daughter, along with the two of us, a couple, with a total of 6 family members. It was difficult to live in a cramped apartment, so we decided to build our own house on a spacious piece of land. Time has passed, and now all the children have grown up and are walking their own paths. However, they always keep us in their minds and contact us frequently. The family bond is very strong, and I was hoping that if anything happened to Brianna, the daughters would also rush over to support her. Contrary to those expectations, there were several problems observed in Brianna's behavior and attitude. Since she started her new life, she was not involved in any of the house's routine work at all. Moreover, she began to express her complaints and dissatisfaction suddenly.
Isn't this miso soup a bit too thick?
Comments like these increased. One morning, my husband left early for work, leaving only me and Brianna at home. Around noon, Brianna finally woke up and appeared in the living room, and her first words were, "I'm hungry." The moment she said she was hungry before saying good morning, I couldn't hide my surprise and was just astonished. Immediately, I decided to warm up some white rice left over from the previous night's dinner for her. I was upset by her behavior. What kind of family environment was she raised in to develop such an attitude? A small dissatisfaction arose from the bottom of my heart, and I could feel it gradually growing bigger. This trend continued almost unchanged since we started living together. Her complaints reached my ears every morning. Nevertheless, despite complaining, the way Brianna proceeded to eat raised questions and surprise in my heart.
Can you really eat something that's salty? I'm worried it could harm my health, and it might have a bad impact on my unborn child. I'd be happy if you could make the taste a bit milder.
As I listened to her words and watched her continue to eat earnestly, my anger surged. Unable to hold back my rage, I washed my hands, stood in front of her, and decided to let my emotions explode. Listen here, Brianna. What do you mean by complaining about the food I've worked so hard to make while eating it? And why would your first words in the morning be "I'm hungry"? What kind of upbringing did you have? Her repeated rude behavior finally exhausted my patience. It was hard to keep my emotions in check, and my words must have struck deep in her heart. Hearing her say she was hungry before even a simple good morning made me feel astonished and irritated at the same time. While doubting what I was seeing, I patiently asked her why she was acting this way. However, she just made an innocent face as if genuinely puzzled, while continuing to eat and complain.
Do greetings really need to be so formal? Isn't saying good morning or I'm hungry just a way of expressing my feelings or state?
Her response, all while continuing to eat, only fueled my anger further. Then, she took a bite of the fried egg, made a face, and said,
"Isn't this fried egg a bit too sweet? Actually, I prefer omelet. I'd be happy if you could consider that next time."
Her words and her attitude as she continued eating brought my anger to a boiling point. Wait a minute, you're being fed by someone else, so why are you expressing so much dissatisfaction? I raised my voice as I spoke to her. Then, I took the chopsticks from in front of her and sternly told her to change her attitude. You're in a position where you're receiving help from others, so you shouldn't be so rude. I am not your personal chef or housekeeper.
Why are you so angry? I'm just expressing my opinion about things I don't find delicious. And if there are things I'd like improved, I'm giving advice as well. Why should that make you angry?
She looked at me with surprised eyes, as if to say, I'm not being sarcastic. I'm just honestly expressing how I feel. The purity in her eyes only stirred up my already heightened anger. So, don't you think it's rude to use such words when someone is cooking for you with all their heart? The idea that meals come naturally every day is a huge mistake.
But when I decided to live here, I was supposed to get support for my life from you, wasn't it? Then, isn't it reasonable to expect daily meals as a part of that support? Especially since I sometimes suffer from morning sickness.
She calmly took the chopsticks back from my hand, wiped the tips carefully with a tissue, showed me that, and then started to focus on her meal again. The way she wiped the chopsticks made it seem as if my hands were dirty, which made me feel even more uncomfortable. As I observed her behavior and attitude, I was confused about whether I was wrong or she was. The situation was becoming too much for me to handle, so I decided to talk to my husband about it and ask for his help. When the conversation among the three of us quietly began, my husband turned to Brianna, carefully chose his words, and asked her a question.
Based on what Claire has told me, and considering the current situation, do you really feel the support and assistance you are receiving in our house, Brianna?
As I said this morning, living together in this house was supposed to be based on that promise, right? Then why do I keep getting told the same thing over and over?
Of course, it was our intention to help you. But even so, is it really right to lack a sense of gratitude in everyday life? Do you truly think everything should be taken for granted?
Brianna seemed to lose her words momentarily at my husband's deep and sincere questioning. However, from her expression and attitude, it was clear she wasn't fully convinced. Watching their exchange, I also felt a bit doubtful about her attitude. My husband took this opportunity to propose some basic rules and agreements for living together to Brianna. There were two main points my husband emphasized. First, not to confuse us with her own parents. Second, not to proceed with the assumption that all support and help are natural. These were moral agreements, valuing a basic mindset as human beings, mutual respect, and gratitude, rather than detailing the specific distribution of household chores or living habits. We, as a couple, couldn't hide our surprise at the fact that we had to explain such basic things to her. Even though she was a woman in her 30s, it was a moment of facing the reality of how unaware of the world she was. Over the months of living together, I started to have doubts about her. Later, Brianna gave birth to a boy and became a new mother. I was hoping that the birth of the child would change her attitude and lifestyle, but my expectations were completely off the mark.
All right, repelled them. Repelled. Yes, good job.
Despite being a gaming enthusiast since her pregnancy, her daily life still revolved around games even after giving birth. She relied heavily on us for most of the childcare, citing her inability to produce breast milk. Unable to contain my anger any longer, I turned off her gaming console.
What? Why would you do that?
Why? What do you think you're doing? Immersing yourself in games all day long, pushing all the childcare and household chores onto us. What do you mean by that? She clearly looked displeased with my actions, responding reluctantly. Deprived of her games, she then began doing her nails on the couch. Her hands, spared from housework, were undeniably beautiful. Her hands were always clean and pretty because we were supporting her from behind. Did she understand that? Inside, my resentment and jealousy towards her were gradually growing.
But I have time now. And mother-in-law, you never really had any particular hobbies before, right? Besides, my having more hobbies now should serve as an opportunity for you to start something new.
She spoke in a light tone while caring for her nails, which only fueled my anger even more. Stop making thoughtless remarks. Your current behavior is no different from neglecting your child. As this child's mother, shouldn't you be acting more responsibly?
But I am properly taking care of my child as a mother. I give the baby milk as soon as he cries at night, and I make sure sleep schedules are in sync. And since my in-laws are willing to look after the baby, there's not much left for me to do.
Her light-hearted response only intensified my anger and disappointment. I doubted if her attitude could ever change, and dark feelings towards her continued to rise within me. I was becoming increasingly aware of my growing negative feelings towards her. The accumulation of daily frustrations and irritations were unknowingly being directed at her. One particular incident remains etched in my memory. That day, our adorable grandson was running a high fever. I felt we needed to take him to the hospital immediately, but unfortunately, both my husband and I were down with a fever as well. Our bodies were heavy, and we were almost incapable of moving, let alone driving to the hospital. Trying to grasp the situation and find a solution, I looked over at my husband. He too was in pain, responding to me with a pained expression.
I'm really sorry, but neither of us can move right now, can we?
I realized I couldn't rely on my husband anymore, so I decided that I had no choice but to ask for Brianna's help, our only hope. Somehow, I dragged my heavy body to Brianna's room, explained the situation to her while gasping for breath, and asked her to take our grandson to the hospital. Brianna, my husband and I are both down with a fever and can't move. So, please, could you take our grandson to the hospital? However, When I entered her room, I found her getting ready to go out. She was dressed flamboyantly, as if she was about to go out for fun. I couldn't hide my surprise, and couldn't understand what she was doing at such a crucial time. That moment, Brianna looked at me with surprise in her eyes, and spoke with a dissatisfied expression.
Wait a minute. I have an important work meeting soon. Mother-in-law, your legs are working fine. You should take him to the hospital yourself. I'm feeling under the weather too, so I can stop by the hospital on my way. We can't just change my schedule that easily.
Since the birth of her son's child, Brianna had started going back to work, but she often chose flashy clothes when she went to work. Her appearance, combining revealing clothes with high heels, was so noticeable that the neighbors speculated she might be working at night. Despite my questions, she never clarified what her job was, and I still don't know what she does to this day. However, I personally didn't think going to work was a bad thing. Nevertheless, today was a different story. Considering my current physical condition, it was unreasonable for her to dump the child care responsibility on me. Wait a moment. Saying so, I tried to grab her arm, but she quickly dodged my attempt and left the house. My body had reached its limits, and just standing was painful. I involuntarily crouched down on the spot. They say that when the body is weak, the mind is also weak, and my heart was indeed in that state. Why did my son marry such a woman? What did he see in her? I didn't want to suffer like this anymore. Overwhelmed by pain and suffering from the bottom of my heart, I lost strength and broke down crying on the spot. That's when I heard my grandson's painful cries. In a panic, I headed to the living room, enduring the pain in my body, trying to embrace my crying grandson. I talked to myself and took action. I have to be strong. I'm the only one who can protect this child. I can't give up now. I can't rely on his mother. While my body was reaching its limits, I was trying to encourage myself from the bottom of my heart. But my body wasn't responding at all. Even the sound of a baby crying was unbearable in this painful situation, making even the smallest actions feel extremely difficult. In this critical moment, I was seriously considering whether or not to call an ambulance. Just then, I heard the sound of the front door opening.
I'm home. How? Why is no one here? Mom, what happened? The little one is crying so much.
The one who had returned home was my eldest daughter, Michelle. She calls Brianna's baby the little one, and she lovingly takes care of the baby whenever she visits. She had a strong rebellious phase during her student days, and sometimes she behaved in a way that was too much to handle. But now she has grown into a respectable mother with 3 children. After getting married, she has become a devoted wife to her husband, and I was relieved to see how much she has changed. Oh, Michelle, I'm so grateful you're here. Please take the kid next door to the hospital quickly.
What, Mom? Pull yourself together.
As soon as she entered the house, Michelle, seeing the state of me and the baby, threw her belongings on the floor and rushed over to us. Relieved to see Michelle, I felt my strength leave me. I let my guard down, and I collapsed, losing consciousness. I could hear Michelle's panicked voice from afar. As I listened to her voice, I quietly closed my eyes and let go of my consciousness. I don't know how much time has passed. When I regained consciousness, an unfamiliar feeling spread before my eyes. There was a strange sensation in my left arm, and I couldn't immediately understand what it was.
Mom, are you awake now? Mom.
Noticing that I was conscious, Michelle leaned in close to my face, staring at me with a worried expression. As I turned my face toward her, I saw an IV drip at the edge of my vision. Seeing this, I finally understood that I was in a hospital. Michelle, with a relieved expression, immediately began to explain the situation.
Mom, you really scared me. The baby was crying loudly in the living room. You were unconscious and had collapsed, and Dad was bedridden in another room. So I was in a complete panic. I called an ambulance for the time being, but the neighbors might ask us various questions later.
They were concerned and came to check on us. Feeling a bit of playfulness in Michelle's words, I showed a weak smile. It seemed like I had caused quite a bit of trouble. And when I apologized to Michelle, she laughed as if to say not to worry about it. Her smile was bright, and I could even feel a sense of reliability from it.
Don't worry, the baby is at the pediatrician right now. Finn has also come home, so everything is okay.
Michelle, thank you. I'm really sorry for causing so much trouble.
It's okay, Mom, but there's something I need to talk about.
Saying so, the bright expression on Michelle's face changed all of a sudden, and the atmosphere shifted. Michelle, looking intently at my face with a very stern expression, made it clear that she was about to talk about something serious. Overwhelmed by her intensity, I naturally took a step back.
What on earth is going on with that incompetent daughter-in-law? I made sure to check over the phone.
I was momentarily confused by Michelle's words, but soon I was able to deduce that she was talking about Brianna. Considering the current situation, when I asked Michelle for details, she told me a surprising fact.
She left the baby alone, and now you're in this state, Mom. She's really hopeless. I asked her, where on earth are you?
While speaking, Michelle detailed the phone conversation she had.
I'm out running errands right now. But is there a problem?
Problem? Mom has collapsed here, and the kids are left unattended. What are you thinking? Just get back here immediately. I'm calling an ambulance right now.
Does anything change if I come back now?
What?
Faced with Brianna's incomprehensible question, while her nephew and mother-in-law were in a critical situation, Michelle showed her anger in that moment.
You're managing everything well, sister, so it's no problem even if I'm not there, right?
Are you out of your mind? Your own child is in such a critical condition, and you're okay with that?
Brianna, sounding quite irritated, said,
You're really annoying. Ever since this morning, both you and Mom have been nothing but complaints. If you have that many complaints, would you please leave our house? Even Mom can't cook properly and is useless. She's been noisy and in the way all this time, so I would appreciate it if she could leave on this occasion. And please never come back.
She spoke these very cold words. Brianna seemed to have turned off her phone after abruptly ending the call. There was no contact from her afterwards, and Michelle was left glaring with rage in her eyes. While listening to Michelle, a mix of anger and sadness welled up in me, and tears started to fill my eyes. I wondered, why do I have to go through such hardship? These thoughts circled in my mind, gradually turning my sadness into anger.
This can't go on. Being passive isn't in my nature, and we have to do something about this.
Saying this, Michelle suggested that we should stand up and take action together. At that moment, my husband and our son, Finn, arrived at the hospital room with their grandson.
Mom, are you okay? I've heard about what happened from Michelle.
Showing her anger, Michelle confronted Finn. Finn, what are you planning to do about that woman? Even knowing the serious situation we're in, you can't possibly still say that you love her, right? Despite the child being present, Michelle approached him with a fierce expression and an intimidating attitude, reminiscent of her delinquent days in youth, overwhelming Finn for a moment. However, he quickly regained composure and calmly responded to Michelle's questioning.
Of course not. A parent who can't properly take care of their child is useless to them. I intend to raise this child myself. I know this might cause trouble for Mom and everyone else in the future, but I ask for your support.
After speaking, Finn bowed deeply to express his gratitude. Michelle and I exchanged glances, nodding in agreement with his words and responding in kind.
You don't need to say that. Your child is an important part of our family, too.
My husband said, supporting each other as a family is a given. Let's keep working together from now on. I added,
Leave the care of the grandson to us and focus on your work. I'll take care of everything at home, so don't worry.
My husband assured Finn. At our words, Finn bowed again, filled with gratitude.
Grandpa, Grandma, thank you.
Our grandson said, walking towards us. He might not have fully understood the situation, but he seemed to sense something and gave us a reassuring smile. At that decisive moment when we resolved to face the difficulties, Michelle made a suggestion. It was about our retaliation plan against Brianna, and my husband and I wholeheartedly agreed upon hearing it. I looked at my husband sitting in front of me and said with deep determination, "Let's do as she says. Let's move out. We need a new start."
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's no need for us to stay here anymore.
With that, our family promptly took action. We divided into 3 groups: Finn, my husband, and Michelle, and packed up only the bare essentials. We decided to let go of our beloved house, where we had lived for many years. That night, we stayed at a new place. The next day, I found an abnormal number of missed calls from Brianna on my cell phone. There were over 40 missed calls, about one every 5 minutes. While I was checking them, another call from Brianna came in.
You absolutely must not answer that. We need to give her a taste of her own medicine.
Saying this, Michelle took the cell phone out of my hands and turned it off without hesitation. She did the same to my husband's cell phone. Then, she took us to a cell phone shop to proceed with the cancellation of our current cell phone contracts. The continuous calls from Brianna might have sunk my heart again. Perhaps sensing my feelings, Michelle kindly suggested,
"Don't worry about it. I've already received the necessary funds from Finn, so I will cover all your expenses from now on. That's what he asked me to do."
While saying this, Michelle gave me a gentle smile. I realized that if I had been alone, I wouldn't have been able to make such a bold and decisive move. I was profoundly grateful for Michelle's strong spirit. Thanks to her, I was able to overcome many difficult situations. About a week later, Michelle brought Brianna, with an angry expression on her face, to our house.
"I finally found her."
What on earth are you talking about? I can't understand unless you explain properly.
Her appearance had changed drastically, beyond recognition from her previous lovely self. Her skin was uncared for, dark circles were under her eyes, and sagging skin was noticeable. She looked as if she had aged rapidly in just a week. "What do I mean? We left because you told us to get out."
Get out. You left me in that terrible house and you all are living in such a magnificent house.
Brianna exclaimed, clearly showing her discontent. In fact, the plan that Michelle suggested on that day was to live in a villa owned by her husband. Michelle's husband is in the real estate business and offered us a helping hand as soon as he knew about our situation. He thoughtfully arranged even a housekeeper and a babysitter for us, an elderly couple. Thanks to that, we were able to live a much more prosperous life than before. You were the one who kicked me out of there, saying I was useless because I couldn't cook. Brianna seemed confused and struggled to find her words, but she desperately pleaded with us.
If you were going to leave, at least leave some money. When I checked the bank account, there was nothing left for Finn, only my portion. And suddenly, Finn asked me for a divorce. Don't tell me, did you guys say something to him?
Michelle felt irritated by Brianna's words, and she couldn't help but be dumbfounded.
How can you be so delusional?
Michelle approached Brianna with a menacing smile. Staring her down, Michelle spoke to Brianna in a calm yet stern manner.
We didn't put anything into his head. Everything you did has been exposed, that's all. Do you still not understand? You've been playing innocent up until now, and lived your life without using your brain at all. How blissfully ignorant can you be?
Brianna became furious at Michelle's words. Her eyes widened, and she responded fiercely to the provocation. She glared at me and then started talking about my grandson.
Where is the child? Even if we get divorced, that child is my child. Give him back to me right now.
I responded to her calmly, but firmly. We should discuss this issue in court properly, but from my perspective, considering that you are currently unemployed and your living conditions are not as stable as Finn's for raising a child, I think he will get custody. Brianna tried to defend herself.
I'm not unemployed. I have a job
But her words lacked confidence, and her voice trembled.
If you think we don't know anything, you're completely mistaken.
With that assertion, Michelle presented Brianna with a thick file labeled investigation report along with several photos. Among those photos were images of Brianna in an intimate relationship with another man, and a moment when she was receiving money from an elderly gentleman.
What in the world is this?
You should really be aware of how low you've fallen as a woman. Neglecting your own child, and spending time frolicking with rich old gentlemen.
You're not showing this to Finn, are you?
Of course, I showed it to him. And since the house is in your name, make sure you pay off the rest of the mortgage properly.
What? Mortgage? What are you talking about?
Huh, you haven't heard anything from your parents. Actually, this house has been extended and renovated several times. That's why there's still a mortgage on it.
Brianna said this, and in a mockingly sweet voice. She seemed to tease Brianna. Brianna's anger reached its peak at this provocative attitude, and her face clearly showed her rage.
That has nothing to do with me.
Claire spoke calmly, but also presented a harsh reality. It's useless to say that. You can't say it has nothing to do with you when the house is in your name. The money is supposed to be automatically withdrawn from your account. That's why we've been paying $1,650 for you every month. The moment she heard these words, it was as if Brianna had dredged up information from the depths of her memory. When we first started living together, this topic had been discussed with Brianna, but she didn't show much interest in it. And it didn't seem like she was listening seriously. She just simply instructed to change the title to her name for the future and to give her the money. Finn didn't think deeply about it either. He entrusted the management of the house to her and understood the money given to him every month as living expenses. However, now that she had received a detailed explanation from us, it seemed like she was finally beginning to understand the seriousness of the matter. Michelle, smiling sweetly, spoke to Brianna.
We really owe a lot to your parents for everything up to this point, but from now on, we will take care of it, so you can live a comfortable and carefree life.
There was a thick sarcasm hidden behind that smile, and although Brianna felt frustrated upon seeing her expression, she soon burst into tears, showing an attitude of seeking help from us. With a pained expression and earnest eyes, Brianna appealed to us.
Please, I'm really begging you. Everything was my mistake. I truly never thought your parents were worthless or told them to get out of the house. I can't live on my own. So, could you please come back? I'm sincerely begging you.
As she said this, she bowed deeply in front of me, clinging to my feet in a prostrating position. My husband, having witnessed the entire ordeal, trembled with anger as he hurled harsh words at her.
Enough with the jokes. Do you even realize how harshly you've treated Claire up until now? Are you saying that you've forgotten all of that? Despite all the times we've sat down and talked, you go and betray everything like this, and you seriously think that's forgivable?
Brianna was momentarily taken aback by my husband's intense words, but she still refused to leave me. She looked up at the sky, cried out to me, and began to beg for help. The situation was so miserable and unpleasant that I tried to leave her the moment she started.
Let go of Grandma's hand.
He said forcefully as he stepped between us, trying to pull her away from me with all his might. Brianna, absolutely furious, yelled at him.
What do you think you're doing to your own mother?
But the grandson stoutly retorted.
I won't let you bully Grandma. I hate Mom. So, just go away.
He stood firmly between Brianna and me, spreading his small arms as if to protect me. I was involuntarily moved by his brave appearance and shed tears of emotion. Unknowingly, he had grown to be so manly, having a dependable broad back. Realizing this, I gently hugged him from behind. At that moment, tears naturally overflowed from my eyes. While shedding tears, I repeated the words "thank you" over and over again, expressing my gratitude. Then, the grandson turned around and tenderly hugged me back with his warm arms. Brianna's face showed both despair and anger at this sight. She glared at me, became emotional, and approached the grandson. As she stood up, Michelle spoke to her in a low voice, issuing a warning.
Getting arrogant will only bring you pain. Are you really sure about that?
Michelle's voice carried weight, and even the defiant Brianna seemed to flinch for a moment at her threatening tone. Brianna clearly understood that she was in a disadvantageous position, and left the scene quietly, wiping away her tears in frustration. Time passed, and eventually, Finn and Brianna got a divorce. Brianna chose to return to her parents' house, but faced the harsh reality of being disowned by them once they learned of the situation. The house she was burdened with was put up for auction because she couldn't pay off the mortgage. And to this day, no new owner has appeared for the house. Through the divorce mediation, it became clear that Brianna was burdened with a massive amount of debt. She was addicted to horse racing, incurred huge losses, and is now forced to live a life chased by debt. Due to the custody being awarded to Finn, our grandson has been raised and grown up well in our care. He is about to turn 20, approaching an important milestone and the celebration of his coming of age. Today, we are here to pick out a suitable suits for this special day.
Grandpa, Grandma, and Dad. I've grown up to be who I am today, all thanks to you all. I truly believe from the bottom of my heart that my real family consists of Dad, Grandpa, and Grandma. Thank you so much for supporting me steadily for these 20 years.
When he came out of the fitting room, the sight of his beaming smile in the suits made me realize how meaningful the years spent together were. At that moment, I felt a deep sense of relief and happiness.
Unexpected meetings and the unexpected aspects of human nature. It's the kind of thing I've always liked. My partner is a college student, and I was immediately enamored with her personality contrast. Mike is my name. I am a 30-year-old salesperson for a real estate firm. Like everyone you meet, I believe I'm fairly average. If I can brag about anything, it's that I seem to have a talent for selling. Since I joined, I've consistently topped the sales statistics, even though I'm not very motivated. In the office, I have a reputation for closing major deals. To be honest, I work at my job merely to make ends meet, and I'm not that excited about it. During my job search, I was already resolved to accept an offer from the first company I received, which just so happened to be this real estate firm. I can't really respond when they question me about my company's spirit, for that reason. I'm listening to my boss brag about his company pride while drinking some liquor that I don't even enjoy tonight. The big players who are signing a large contract with us tomorrow are being entertained at one of those standard business dinners. I was furious and thought, when we closed the transaction, why not just have a drink? I'm grinning on the surface, but I'm moaning within. I suppose you might say that's my unique talent. Hope all goes well tomorrow, my boss said as he led the client into a taxi, and I was exhausted. What a hassle it is that I now have to call a cab for my boss. When I eventually hail a cab, I shove my boss inside and force the door shut. "Don't be late tomorrow," he says to me. Despite being my immediate supervisor, he doesn't care about the specifics of the job. He is incapable of handling a deal on his own and only wants the credit. There will be many competitors attending tomorrow's presentation. I feel more like I'm being taken advantage of than trusted. That's something I've recently realized. As the taxi carrying my boss vanishes from view, I exhale in relief. I consider going straight home, sleeping, and then making my way to the closest subway station. Even though it's a weekday, there are a lot of people around, so I try to avoid running into intoxicated people. I choose a less crowded path since I'm tired of the crowds, but I end up in trouble for it. Help someone. Give me up. In a dim alley, I hear a young woman pleading for assistance. I turn to face the voice out of instinct. I notice a man who appears to be a playboy and a little woman wearing spectacles fighting. By grabbing her by the wrist, the man is dragging her to an exit where a white van with its sliding door open is waiting, perhaps with his friends inside. This definitely appears to be a crime scene. I think about it, but honestly, I'm not keen on getting involved. As I'm deciding whether to walk away or intervene, I lock eyes with the distressed woman. The desperation in her gaze behind those glasses holds me. Without thinking, I find myself stepping between the man and her. I must have moved faster than I ever believed I could. Before I could think, my body just moved on its own. I guess there was something captivating in her eyes. Can't you see she's not into it? And are those guys your pals? This looks like a kidnapping. Isn't this a crime? My words seem to unnerve the guy, and he lets go of her arm. Sheltering her behind me, I tell the guy, just give up. To be honest, fighting isn't my strong suit. I really don't like confrontations or complications, yet here I am, stirred into action by the intensity of her gaze. Back off, old man, or you'll get hurt, the guy spat, sounding like some thug on the street. Looking closer, he seemed like a college student. Hey, are these folks your friends? I turned and asked the girl. I've seen him around campus, but I have no association with him, she responded firmly. The guy momentarily faltered at her words. A tussle between me and him continued, with shouts of let go and back off. Soon, the distant sound of police sirens grew closer. Probably a passerby had seen the incident and called the police. Hearing the sirens, the guy clicked his tongue in annoyance. Just when I thought it was over, a heavy punch came flying at me with incredible force. I blacked out as I was slammed against a wall. The last thing I remember was that moment. When I woke up, I found myself in an unfamiliar room with sunlight coming through the curtains. I felt a pain on my cheek, but my back was in even more pain. It seemed like I was on the second floor, with the distant sound of machinery coming from below. I recognized the nostalgic scent in the air. It was the smell of ink. Rising from the bed I'd been laid on, I checked my sore back. It appeared I had some scrapes. An old-fashioned clock on the wall showed it was 2:00 p.m. oddly. I didn't feel panicky or desperate, even though I was absent from work and had an important meeting that day. I absent-mindedly wondered who had taken over the crucial deal I was supposed to handle, but I quickly gave up on the thought. My cell phone, which was by the pillow, had a broken screen and seemed to be non-functional, probably from when I fell. Inadvertently, I had become that guy who loses contact on such an important day. My boss must be in a real panic. I said a silent sorry in my head for a moment and then let the thought go. I walked down the stairs, drawn to the sound of machinery. I found what seemed like a living area above a workspace. Judging by the number of dishes in the kitchen, I guessed maybe 2 people live here. Yet, I had no idea where I was. In front of me, there was a large machine with metal plates lined against the wall. I then guessed it was an old-fashioned letterpress printing shop, something I'd seen in books. Beside the machine, a tall man wearing an apron made of sailcloth was working. "Excuse me," I spoke hesitantly. He looked up, recognizing me, and gave a warm smile. "Ah, you're awake. You had quite a night. How you tried to help Valerie, but ended up getting the worst of it," he remarked. He introduced himself as the older brother of Valerie, the college girl I had tried to help the previous night. Apparently, after I passed out, Valerie had dragged me to this place. That explained the scrapes on my back. He added with a slightly apologetic grin, "We probably should have called an ambulance." "Hey, can I borrow your phone? I need to call my office. I've missed work without notice." He casually tossed me his cell phone. The unlocked screen displayed a snapshot of him and Valerie laughing together. They seemed close. The response I got after calling my workplace was a series of angry shouts. At some point, I felt like this was something I couldn't handle on my own, so I switched to speakerphone, letting the guy hear. The man, who was a letterpress craftsman, introduced himself as Bob. To begin with, I was told to show up, and I replied yes, then hung up the call. Bob said, "That's impressive." Well, it was a big job, after all. "What kind of job allows you to get verbally abused? Doesn't make sense," he said, and then went back to his work. I did think he had a point. "So, you got fired." He operated the printing press handle with a loud clang. "Probably a demotion. It's such a pain." Regardless of arriving early at the office, the situation wouldn't get better. That thought made me reluctant to even go to work. After finishing his work, Bob invited me upstairs, saying, "Let's grab some lunch." "Hey, is that guy all right?" Still unconscious. Then, the college girl from last night, with plastic bags from a drugstore in both hands, kicked the entrance door open. She probably had to kick it since her hands were full, but she came in quite energetically. "Hey, welcome back. This guy here is either getting fired or demoted because of you." Bob said that with a smirk, and his sister Valerie looked pale and dropped the bag she was holding. Then she glared at me. I was taken aback by her intense stare and straightened up, staring back. "I got it. I'll take responsibility. I'll take care of you, don't worry." Valerie seemed to have a peculiar way of thinking. Bob was laughing his heart out. In the end, I reached the office just before closing time. As soon as I placed my bag on my desk, I was called into the boss's office. Inside, the supervisor, manager, and the CEO were all present. All of them frowned and glared at me. "Because of you, everything's been ruined. Do you realize the loss you've caused the company?" The CEO said in a restrained, angry voice. Both the manager and supervisor nodded in agreement. They probably didn't prepare or go through the documents that would have allowed them to handle the situation without me. They clearly wanted to put all the blame on me. Then the CEO handed me a transfer order. "You're being transferred." I was being sent to a quiet branch office where only unimportant tasks are handled. "Oh, never mind the transfer. Please accept this instead." I quickly pulled out my resignation letter, which I had kept in my suit's inner pocket, and handed it to the CEO. It was something I had written at that printing shop. The CEO and the manager's faces turned pale when they saw it. There was a commotion in the sales department as their top salesman, me, said he would quit. It seems they planned to demote me temporarily and bring me back to headquarters once everything settled. My sudden decision to quit left them scrambling. "Well then, I'll be going. Thank you for everything." As I bowed slightly and tried to leave the CEO's office, the CEO shouted, "Hold him back." The supervisor rushed to grab my arm, leading to a minor scuffle. I was getting really fed up. During the struggle, a small message card fell from my pocket. It was made at the printing shop. As they taught me about the printing process, they made a business card-sized message card for me, embossed with the unique impression of letterpress printing. It read, "I'll take responsibility. Valerie." Looking at the card, a smile crept on my face. "What do you plan on doing after leaving the company? You think other companies will match your current salary?" At the CEO's angered voice, I turned back and gave a bright smile. The sight of my smile left the CEO slightly taken aback. "I think I've secured a permanent job, so on good." I felt incredibly refreshed as I stepped out of the boss's office with those words. The next day, I visited the Taggart letterpress printing, owned by those siblings. "Please take responsibility," I declared. Valerie, rushing out from the back of the workshop, greeted me with a salute, saying, "Understood." Bob seemed a bit hesitant, but he hired me as a part-timer, and soon I officially joined the printing crew. Bob had an artisan spirit and was a bit quirky, yet he's a good guy. You can tell he really cares about his sister Valerie. Valerie is an unusually conservative college girl for these days. She doesn't wear makeup and has thick glasses, giving her a plain look. But as I worked with her, she surprised me once. When ink splattered on her glasses and she couldn't see, we all laughed at her. But when she took off her glasses, I was astonished. Her beautiful almond-shaped eyes were a bright hazel, framed by long lashes. "Do you really have to laugh that much?" She pouted, her cheeks turning peachy. She looked simply delightful. Lost in admiration, Bob whispered to me, "She's a beauty, isn't she?" Without realizing, I nodded in agreement, and then felt a strong thud on my back. "All the folks in our family are stingy," he joked, smirking. I couldn't help but feel a bit embarrassed. It felt embarrassing, especially since my gaze toward Valerie had clearly changed since she took off her glasses. It was obvious he had noticed, and it was embarrassing. Then an incident made me realize the truth of Bob's words. In the evening, Valerie returned from college, holding large paper bags in both hands. "It's my Halloween costume for a college event," she said. When she returned after changing in her room, I was stunned. Is it weird?" she asked. There she stood, wearing a mini bright red Chinese dress. Her usually hidden legs caught my attention. "Oh, are you interested in outfits like this?" I was about to respond, but felt a pain at the back of my head. Turning around, I found Bob holding a rolled-up magazine, the likely culprit of my sudden headache. "Valerie, it doesn't suit you much. Let's buy another one together," later Bob said, shielding my eyes and speaking gently to his sister. I murmured under my breath, "Protective brother, of course." The next moment, I felt another thud on my head. "All right, sorry. I didn't mean to show something so awkward." Valerie, blushing furiously, dashed to her room. Deep down, I wished I could have seen more. "You're a fast learner, aren't you?" Mike Valerie commented as we both sat at the workbench, refining imported zinc plates. I'd often find myself admiring her hands even during work. Her delicate fingers meticulously working on the plates looked almost sacred and beautiful. If she didn't wear her glasses, many more would notice her charm. "I've always been good with my hands. Even now," Valerie says. "I'll take responsibility," with such sincerity. Bob would just laugh, and at first, I didn't take her seriously. But as the days went by, I realized something. She genuinely wanted to take responsibility. She's sincere, a bit clumsy, and slightly out of touch with the world. But all these traits made me fall for her without even realizing it. One day, as the three of us were having lunch as usual, there was a feature on historical buildings in downtown New York on TV. I have a passion for historic buildings, and my only hobby on my days off is walking around to see them. As I started explaining the buildings shown on screen to the other two, Valerie leaned in to look me in the face. "Hey, what's up?" "Sorry, was I being too loud?" I thought I might have been over-talking, and I apologized to Valerie. She shook her head and stood up, saying, "No, that's not it." "Hey, what do you really want to do, Mike? Are you staying here just because I said I'd take responsibility?" Confronted by her intense gaze, I couldn't answer immediately. I thought to myself that I shouldn't give a half-hearted reply. "I'll think about it and get back to you." Upon hearing my words, Valerie sat back down, saying, "All right, Mike. I know you hate overthinking stuff, but take some time tonight and really ponder about it." Even though Bob kept his eyes glued to the TV, his words hit me hard. That night, I went home and reflected on what they had said. I realized I had been living life without much purpose. It was the same with my previous job. I felt like I was just going through the motions, working out of habit. No real attachments or regrets. Even when it came to girls, I had an easy come, easy go attitude. What did I really want to do? I spread a notebook out on the table and began jotting down everything. Food I wanted to eat, books I wanted to read, things I wanted to do, and historic buildings I wanted to see all over the world. In no time, the pages were filled. I can't do all this. There's not enough time, I sighed, looking over the filled pages. Then suddenly, I burst into laughter. There were photo books of historical buildings on a shelf, which I hadn't paid much attention to. If I hadn't met those two, I might have spent my life simply sighing over the images in those books. After laughing heartily, I felt a weight lift off my chest. I'm quitting my part-time job today. The next morning, I announced this to Valerie and Bob right away. Bob, with a puzzled expression, remarked, "You're always so unpredictable." Yet I could tell he wasn't mad. "You figured out what you wanted?" Valerie asked, and I nodded confidently. "So what's the plan?" "I'm going to see everything I've ever wanted to until I'm satisfied." Valerie gave a delighted smile. "That sounds wonderful." I explained to them about my plan to visit historical sites around the world. Bob was concerned about the finances, but I had some savings from when I worked at a real estate agency. If I'd run out, I planned to pick up another part-time job. Valerie, I'm sorry I always tease you about taking responsibility. You don't really have to. I apologized to Valerie for always teasing her by telling her to take responsibility. I thought I should make sure to tell Valerie that she's now free. When I did, Valerie bit her bottom lip and looked up at me. She always makes that expression when she wants to convey something serious. You don't have to apologize. Please don't. Instead, I just want to ask one favor. That was what Valerie said to me. It was the first time she had ever asked me for a favor, so I was taken aback. Huh, a favor? What is it? I asked, hesitantly. With a serious look on her face, she said, Is it okay if I wait for you, Mike? I thought, what a sweet request. Hey Bob, can you step out for a bit? I want to hug Valerie. Bob retorted, You know my answer is no. Don't push your luck. It seems touching her is off limits until I return. I feel the day I'll be calling Bob brother-in-law is getting closer. As proof, even though Bob verbally says no, he's still smiling. If God exists, I truly want to thank him. Thank you for leading me to the sibling. That day, I've traveled for 3 years and have seen much of what the world has to offer, but there's still more I want to see. I've been documenting my travels on a blog, and in doing so, I started getting interview requests and offers to write essays and columns for travel magazines. Now writing for them has become my job. The rapid change still astonishes me. To keep my promise, I opened the doors of the Tucker print shop. I'm back. Sorry for keeping you waiting. Upon my unexpected return, Valerie was in shock. When she realized, she gave a big smile and saluted me. I've been waiting for you. Welcome back. She ran towards me and hugged me immediately, and of course, I hugged her back tightly. So what did you think about the story? Subscribing to our channel will motivate us to create more content. Well then, see you in the next video. I'm 28-year-old Ryan Sawyer. I co-founded a small game firm with a friend while I was in college, and I currently serve as its CEO. Before we knew it, our business was growing rapidly as our mobile app game became a huge hit. I often reflect on how lucky I am to have achieved success in my passion. As a matter of fact, I've been fortunate since birth. I was lovingly raised by my parents and came from a reasonably well-off home. My parents gave me the freedom to fully explore any interest I had, whether they were academic or recreational. I don't think I can express how grateful I am to them. Hey Ryan, are you available for tonight's drinking party? The door to my office opened as I was ready to close my computer after going through all of my accumulated emails. Tom, my college friend and our company's co-founder, poked his head in. Our company's vice president is Tom. The CEO and vice president roles don't really have much influence because they were actually chosen in a game. I said, Yes, I will be there. Tom gave me a playful scowl and a look of displeasure as I answered. I kind of hoped you wouldn't arrive, you know. You end up robbing every girl every time. Tom always cracks an old joke during our drinking events. I'm apparently really attractive, and when you combine that with my impressive academic background, tall build, and high money, it appears like I draw attention. Women's looks during these gatherings can occasionally make me uneasy. Avoid saying that. My work is my love, as you are well aware. There isn't someone I would consider a significant other. Sometimes I go out to dinner and stay the night with some people. That's all. I prefer to live that way despite Tom's constant warnings that I would be hurt someday. I haven't thought about romantic love since high school. I grabbed my phone and went out of the office after Tom. I was a little excited when I considered who I might meet today. This assembly of young business people happens on a regular basis. I try to be there as much as I can, even if it's hard to be there every time. It's a fantastic location for us to share information. Additionally, a lot of individuals bring attractive girls with them, so it's a place to meet new people. Cute girls were present today as well, including a public relations representative from a well-known apparel brand and the executive assistant of the CEO of a significant trade company. While everyone is enjoying themselves, I can tell that the girls are sizing us guys up. It can't be helped considering the circumstances, but it also feels as though this approach wastes the potential of these encounters. If we could let our guards down and speak honestly, maybe some amazing chemistry could happen. With that thought in mind, I spent the evening making small talk with the girls. The first round of the party was decent, lively, and momentum was building to head to the after party. I idly watched as the organizers debated in front of the restaurant on where to go next. "Hey Ryan, Tom, let's make a quiet exit." The one who whispered this to me was no other than Ethan, the CEO of a major apparel company. A bit older than us, Ethan was the leader-like figure among young entrepreneurs. Even from a guy's perspective, he's a cool guy, and I look up to him. I wouldn't dare to turn down an invitation from such a person. Tom and I exchanged glances and quietly slipped out of the group. "Just turn off your phones, it's less hassle," said Ethan, confidently walking ahead. As he looked back, it must be to avoid getting searched. For as long as we turn off our phones, no one can catch us. I felt a sense of temporary freedom. The bustling streets on Friday night were lively. We threaded through the crowd smoothly and found ourselves in front of a certain building. It was a building that housed a members-only upscale club. I had heard rumors, but it wasn't the kind of place novices like us could enter. "Ethan, we're going in here." "It's a members-only place," I said. In front of the glossy black door stood a security guard in black, who deeply bowed when he noticed Ethan. Ethan, it seemed, was a member. That made sense to me. Ethan being well-informed must be due to him frequently visiting such places and keeping his ears open to various stories. "I got introduced to this place recently and became a member," he said. "Apparently, you can get in if you're with a member. So Tom and I ventured into this unknown world." Inside, the lighting was cleverly dimmed, making the interior design look even more chic. Beautiful women were seated at each table, engaging in low whispers with the guests. Just a glance, and I could spot the faces of known CEOs and owners. It felt like a social gathering of the elite, and I started to feel a bit tense. Ethan, who seemed used to all of this, casually introduced us to the beautiful hostess. The elegant hostess said, "I'm happy to see you people here," and welcomed us warmly. Honestly, I've never been to places with girls. I've never been to a strip club. We were guided to velvet sofas, and immediately, a girl came and sat next to us. She handed out a business card with her nickname on it, and I hurriedly started searching for mine. The girl found my confusion amusing and let out a little laugh. Ethan seemed to have someone in mind as he looked like he was waiting for her. His slightly anxious profile made him look like a boy. "Ethan, thank you for always coming." A girl elegantly sat next to Ethan, saying this as she approached. Her slim shoulders were revealed by a navy blue dress that suited her fair complexion well. "Nah, we've kept you waiting. I've brought along some juniors today," Ethan said, introducing us to Na. Na bowed her head to us with a cheerful smile. Of course, Na would likely be her work name, but it suited her well. "Nice to meet you, I'm Na." When she raised her face after saying that, I caught sight of Na's face and almost let out a surprised, "Oh." The person standing before me was my high school friend, Lisa Thompson. She looked different, but I was sure it was her. "Wait, Lisa Thompson, right?" I tentatively asked. Nana responded with a grin, evading my question by saying, "Who knows? Perhaps it might be a nuisance to mention her real name here." So I decided not to push any further. Nana is apparently a popular hostess at this club. Even after she joined us at our table, she was called to various others, busily moving around for greetings and send-offs. Despite the hectic environment, Nina never let her smile fade. She generously offered her beautiful smile to everyone. The woman in front of me was the exact opposite of the Lisa I knew. After all, I had only seen her smile once. The impressions were so far apart that perhaps I had the wrong person. By the time we were leaving, I had come to this conclusion. The high school library that smelled of old books. She, a library committee member, was always seated at the counter, always expressionless, with a cold side profile. For some reason, I just can't forget her. In the end, I left the club without verifying the truth, being sent off with a broad smile. Ethan seemed quite smitten with Nina, and on the way home, I was regaled with stories about her. Ethan, would you mind inviting me the next time you go to the club? At this, Ethan looked a bit surprised. He knows well that I usually don't frequent such places, so it must have been unexpected. But he quickly smiled and readily agreed. From the bottom of my heart, I wanted to keep visiting the club until at least I uncovered the true identity of Nina. That day, I was confused as Nina and Lisa kept appearing alternately until I fell asleep. Ethan was kind enough to keep his promise with me. Over the weekend, he contacted me, and we decided to go back to the club together. On this day, Nina wasn't there when we arrived, as she was accompanying a regular customer. Ethan immediately called over the madam, introduced me politely, and suggested that I should definitely become a member of the club. I didn't expect him to go that far, and I was deeply touched by Ethan's kindness. The madam also agreed to my membership, saying, "If it's Ethan's recommendation." In this unexpected situation, I gained a status at the club. I was torn about whether or not to tell Ethan the truth. While I was contemplating, Nina appeared with a regular customer. Nina, in a simple dress, reminded me of Lisa from our high school days. Nina quickly disappeared into the backstage for makeup and a costume change. I unconsciously followed her retreating figure with my eyes. Ethan seemed to notice it. "If Nina is your objective, give me a break. I can't win against you," Ethan jokingly said while laughing. But I noticed his eyes weren't laughing. He must be serious about Nina. "Don't be ridiculous. She's way out of my league," I replied with a laugh. Ethan muttered in a small voice, "I don't know." We chatted with the substitute girls while drinking until Nina was free. All the hostesses at this high-class club were amazing. Each one was a skilled conversationalist and had a variety of topics to talk about. There was no way they'd let us, the customers, get bored. Moreover, each of them had the beauty and style of a model. I was almost distracted while I was chatting with the substitute girls. Ethan's phone rang. He was about to hang up, but his complexion changed slightly when he saw the caller screen. "I need to take this outside," he said and left the club. It must have been an important call. The problem was that I was left alone. This was only my second time visiting a place like this, and I was left feeling out of place, unsure of what to do. Ethan returned after about 5 minutes, but apparently, some problem had occurred at his company. He said he had to return to the office immediately and left the club reluctantly. Just before leaving, he told me that he had paid for everything that day. Just as Ethan left, Nina came to my table. "Sorry for the wait. It's your second visit, right?" "Thank you so much," I said with a smile as she smoothly replaced my glass. Sure enough, I saw glimpses of the Lisa I knew when the helper left the table, and it was just Nina and me. I decided to ask her directly, "You're Lisa, right? The one who was on the library committee in high school." Instantly, Nina's smile faded from her face. "It's a mixed blessing to have good intuition and a good memory, Ryan," she said. There was Lisa, the girl I knew so well. Even with her makeup done beautifully and dressed up in a dress, her cold side profile was the same as before. I felt a little relieved. I wondered why I couldn't ask. "Why?" I said. The Lisa I knew was a top student in school. She was the kind of student who was expected to receive a scholarship for university. But according to Ethan, she had dropped out of high school and was working hard. Please don't be interested in me. Don't interfere with my work because of your nostalgia. That's a meaningless emotion, Lisa said while avoiding my gaze. Then she raised her hand towards the waiter. Please take him home. Thank you. Just like that, I was forced to leave the club by Lisa. Just before the elevator door closed, she smiled and said, "Don't ever come back," making me feel her rejection. That night, I had a nostalgic dream. Lisa was sitting at the counter in the high school library. "What are you reading?" At first, I spoke to her casually. I think it was just a greeting for me. Lisa glared at me with her eyes turned up. "Are you borrowing or are you returning?" Lisa asked me without any hint of a smile, in a businesslike manner. It was the first time a girl I had approached had reacted so unsocially, and I was a little surprised. Looking back now, I think I was an annoying guy with excessive self-confidence because I knew I was popular. I, who had no books to borrow or return, was at a loss for words. Then, as if she was disgusted, she sighed and dropped her eyes back to the book she had been reading. It felt like I was being ignored, and it annoyed me. As a library committee member, don't you have any recommended books? I persistently called out to her, looking annoyed. Lisa looked up at me and placed an in-service sign on the counter. "What kind of book are you looking for?" she asked me as she came out from behind the counter. I, who hadn't thought about anything, hastily repeated, "A book you recommend." Then she disappeared into the aisle of bookshelves. In less than 2 minutes, she had found a book. "This is my recommendation," she said. The book she handed me was a paperback titled Stories of Thoroughbreds. When I took the book she offered, she went back inside the counter, her face showing no expression during the lining process. I think I was just fixating on things like the whiteness of her nape when she looked down or the line of her jawline profile. This is how my interactions with Lisa began. Even though she told me she didn't want to see me again, I can't help but be concerned about her. I wonder why she became a hostess, why she dropped out of high school, and if there's anything I can do to help her, no matter how small. I thought I'd like to be there for her. After some thought, I decided to call the madam and request to come in. Na wouldn't be able to refuse if the request came from the madam. It may seem a bit sneaky, but it couldn't be helped. As I expected, I received a return call from Na. "This is Na. Thank you for coming with me," she said, her obviously fake cheerful voice taking me aback. She decided the place and time for our meeting as if it were a business call, and then hung up the phone. From the beginning to the end of the call, Lisa had been Na. I felt a bit down, thinking maybe I was just causing her trouble. But even while feeling down, I was excited to see Lisa, and my work for the day went by swiftly. I was amazed at my own emotions, but I couldn't suppress them because they were my honest feelings. When I spotted her waiting for me at our meeting place, I felt like I could burst into dance. I was simply happy to see her. "Sorry, did I keep you waiting?" When I checked the time, it was 10 minutes earlier than our agreed meeting time. "No, I just got here," she responded with a radiant smile. The next moment, all expression vanished from Na's face. Perhaps my confusion showed on my face. Na gave a slight smile, lifting the corners of her mouth just a bit. Do I need to keep up my business smile? It's not free, you know. She was sharp and sarcastic. The old Lisa was there. I felt more at ease with her now than with Na's fake smile. When we entered the private room of the Vietnamese restaurant I had reserved, Lisa seemed a bit more relaxed. She didn't need to act like Na when we were out of the public eye, especially not in front of me. I was surprised to think we would meet again in a place like that. I started working for the money. It was the quickest way to make some, Lisa said, her face blank. She acted as if she was prepared for me to dig into her roots and ask questions. Anyway, she shared what had happened since I had graduated high school. The fact is, Lisa and I had been in contact for less than a year. It was when I was a senior and Lisa was a freshman in high school. We hadn't been in touch since I graduated. Lisa's dropping out of high school was apparently due to her father's disappearance. He found a younger woman and abandoned his family, Lisa said bitterly. Her mother, who was brought up like a princess, had been married against her parents' wishes and was completely incapable of living independently. Lisa was the one who supported the family, having lost the mainstay of the family and could not rely on her grandparents' home. She had 3 younger brothers. It seems that in order to support her mother and 3 brothers still in compulsory education, she decided to drop out of high school and work. Initially, she held several part-time jobs. Her brothers also helped out with the household finances, doing things like delivering newspapers. My mother was too busy lamenting to be of any help, Lisa said. As soon as she turned 18 and could work in the nightlife, Lisa jumped into this world. It started from a casual bar, then she was headhunted by the madam of her current workplace. Have you got all your answers now? I was surprised to find out. You've become a CEO, Lisa said, finishing her story and gulping down her ginger ale. I think I'm just too fortunate. I always feel insecure, not knowing how much of what I've achieved is actually due to my own abilities. Oddly enough, the anxiety that I hadn't been able to express to anyone fell out of my mouth. Lisa looked at me with a surprised expression. Sorry? Forget it. It's just my ramblings. Embarrassed, I tried to play it off as a joke. Listening to complaints is also part of my job. It's not for free, though, Lisa said with a gentle smile, which I didn't think was her usual business smile. It was the smile of Lisa that I had seen only once during our school days. Then we chatted a little bit about the old days. I think, in reality, my head was so messed up that I don't remember what we talked about. But just before we entered the club, Lisa said something that stuck with me. Look, I'm not ashamed of who I am now. I just don't want people who knew me in the past to see me as I am now. I feel like that's disrespectful to the people at the club and to the customers, but I can't help feeling that way. Before I could say anything, Lisa forcefully pushed open the door of the club. A subdued buzz, punctuated by quiet laughter, came from inside the club, accompanied by jazzy music. The dimly lit floor and the scent of expensive whiskey welcomed us. As soon as Lisa stepped foot into the club, she transformed into Na. She looked at me with a full smile. Please wait for me at the club. I feel like drinking champagne tonight, she said charmingly before disappearing into the backstage. The bartender gave her a smile, saying she knows how to get what she wants. Yeah, I guess so. All I could do was return an embarrassed smile. It felt like everyone had some kind of inner contradiction that they couldn't fully come to terms with. It's been a few weeks since I started going out with Lisa. I've been wishing to visit the club often, but work has plunged into its peak season. Both my team and I have been pulling all-nighters. I'm in no shape to go out, devoid of energy and motivation. Finally, things settled down yesterday. Just as I was about to see Lisa after a long while, I got a call from Ethan. Man, I proposed to Nanina yesterday. I haven't gotten a response yet. I don't have the courage to go to the club alone. Can you come with me today? I was surprised at his uncharacteristically timid voice, but I was also shocked by what he said. I never thought he would seriously consider being with Lisa. I've spent a lot on her. Nah, I don't think she'll refuse, Ethan said. No doubt, there's no customer who has spent more on Na than he has, but just because of that, I felt like he was taking Lisa for granted, thinking she couldn't refuse. I have something to tell you that I've been hiding. I thought I couldn't deceive Ethan any longer. Of course, I had no intention of deceiving him from the beginning. I just couldn't bring myself to say it. I have a bad feeling, but let's hear it. Ethan probably had a hunch. His voice dropped a bit as he said that. He probably invited me to the bar today as a countermeasure against me. Na and I have known each other since high school, and she's the one I've always had feelings for. I don't want to interfere with your proposal, but please give me a chance. I thought it was rude to say such a thing to a mentor I deeply respect, but there are moments in life when you can't back down. I've often heard Na talk about you. I see, so that's what's going on, Ethan said calmly, showing no anger. He said he would give me a chance. It's Nana's decision who she chooses. If she chooses me, don't complain. I won't either. Thank you. Ethan, whom I respected, was fair and manly to a fault. He told me to go to the club first and confess my feelings to Na, and I was on the verge of tears. We hung up after agreeing to meet at the club. Over the past few weeks when I couldn't see Lisa, I had been preparing something and headed to the bar. The bar just opened and was still sparsely populated, and when I asked for Na, she came to the table right away. Long time no see, Ryan. I thought you'd forgotten about me, she said with a fake smile. I asked directly, are you going to accept Ethan's proposal? The hand she was using to make the whiskey and soda stopped. I saw her fingertips trembling slightly. The sound of ice falling into a glass resounded in the silence. Not a bad deal, you know. He's rich and kind. He only has eyes for me. While not looking my way, Na proceeded to mix herself a whiskey and soda. I've got money too, you know. I almost despised myself for the vulgarity of the words that came out of my mouth. At my words, the fake smile disappeared from her face. Na looked at me, her eyes challenging. I'm willing to pay whatever it takes. Marry me. She looked at me with contempt after I uttered the same phrase again. Then slowly, she took off the ring from her right hand and placed it in front of me, an expensive-looking diamond ring. I'd remembered the boastful way Ethan had announced it was a gift from him. I come with a high price tag, you know. Lisa's mouth twisted into a self-deprecating line. I realized that I had hurt her, but I couldn't back down here either. I handed her what I had prepared. I might not have as much money as Ethan, and we've only just reconnected, but I want you to look at me again, just like before. I want you to recommend books to me and teach me about worlds I don't know. As she saw what I had handed her, her eyes widened. It was an information guide for the high school equivalency test, a pamphlet for distance learning, and a brochure for online universities. The last was a brochure for a course to become a librarian. She carefully placed each pamphlet on her lap one by one. Her slender fingers traced over the covers of the pamphlets. Maybe it's time for you to chase your own dreams. I want to see you achieve yours. If we're talking marriage, I think I'd be the better bargain. Back in high school, I once asked Lisa, who served on the library committee. In theory, the library counter duties were supposed to rotate among committee members, but whenever I went there, it was always Lisa sitting behind the counter. I loved this place, so I switched duties with other members. I want to be a librarian in the future, so consider this my practice, she said. I still remember when Lisa, who was usually expressionless, shyly shared her dream with me. You still remember that? You're strange. While she uttered the words with some bitterness, Lisa's eyes were glossy with tears. I don't know why I couldn't forget. It's strange even to me, but I've always liked you. I thought I could finally confess to her after over a decade. I had planned to confess to her on graduation day, but she wasn't in the library on that day. I couldn't meet her, so I remember leaving a small note on the library counter and leaving. I'll tell you I love you when we meet again. The words I muttered were the ones I had left in the note for her. The fact that she remembered those words was more joyous than anything. I felt as if the stopped clock had finally started moving. Years later, I stood in front of a large library. It was a chilly day, cold enough for snow, and I could feel the cold creeping up from my feet. The staff entrance opened and lights spilled out. Sorry to keep you waiting. You must be cold. Lisa took both my hands, blowing warm breath on them. I'm okay, I replied, folding her hands and tucking them into the pockets of my coat. It's warm when we're like this. Lisa smiled shyly and nodded. The smile that was now directed at me wasn't for business. feeling like the luckiest man in the world. Having her priceless smile all to myself, I cherished this moment. I'm employed at a store inside a big medical facility. I was usually happy at work and didn't have any specific grievances. I came onto a disturbance one evening while I was strolling around the hospital for a little smattering. A hospitalized child appeared to have begun to suffer. I observed a fresh female physician having trouble performing a challenging intubation. She was unable to do it because her hands were shaking. I snatched the tube from her after assessing the situation. I can do this. Let me try. An unexpected turn of events occurred when I successfully finished the treatment as she watched in amazement. John is my name. I'm a normal 35-year-old man who might be found anywhere in the nation. I work in a store as a staff member. Despite being a store, it is not the same as a supermarket or convenience store. The store is housed inside a New York hospital. Patients and those who accompany inpatients frequent this sizable hospital. Early in the morning and right before closing, the store is frequented not only by patients, but also by physicians and nurses from the same hospital. The store is frequently packed with customers wearing white coats. $10, please. A senior nurse came to buy her food during noon. She grabbed a tiny pastry, a bottle of tea, and a sandwich. She appeared to have a sweet tooth, which is somewhat problematic for a medical professional. She finally gave in to her urges and purchased these. Your change is right here. I gave her the change after calling her up and bagging her belongings. Taking it, she linked the coins in her clasp wallet. Along with her purchases, she placed the receipt in the bag. As she moved away from the register, she muttered, "Thank you." I also said, "Thank you," while I watched her back. It might sound like a line from a screenplay, almost robotic, but I really did mean it from the bottom of my heart. Please, can I have this? Okay, give me a minute. A young boy was the next person at the register. He is most certainly an inpatient because he was dressed in hospital attire. With a robot and a monster toy in his tiny hands, he appeared to be around 5 years old. A small woman, most likely the boy's mother, stood behind him. Both items cost $10 in total. This is yours. On the tray, she laid a $10 bill. We have a store inside the hospital where we sell food and toys for different requirements. Hospitals aren't really enjoyable, and they may be extremely frightening for kids. We make an effort to provide a range of considerate products to make their difficult times a little bit easier. Exactly $10. Your receipt is here. I gave him the gifts and she the receipt. Thank you very much. He thanked me with a bright smile and a lively voice. Please come again. Cheered up by his energy, I waved goodbye to them with a smile. And so I work at the shop like this. It's primarily a standing job, which can be quite tiring, but there are energetic kids like the boy earlier who share their energy with me. But then again, this is a hospital. It's not uncommon for children to become scared and start crying. A baby being held by his mother in the line for the register started crying loudly. Oh dear, he's gotten fussy, I thought to myself as I worked through the line, eventually reaching this mother and child. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. The mother apologized to those around her, looking embarrassed despite her talking to and gently rocking the baby, who seemed about a year old. There was no sign he was going to stop crying anytime soon. It's okay. It's a baby's job to cry after all. I reassured her while scanning the items in her basket. The baby continued to cry the whole time. The surrounding glances gathered, and she looked even more apologetic. All right, time for my secret weapon. After finishing scanning the items, I handed over the change and the receipt. Right after that, I pulled out a pinwheel from under the counter. It was a pinwheel made of plastic film attached to a handle. Look, it goes round and round. I spun the pinwheel in front of the crying baby. Sniffling, he looked at it curiously. On his arm, I noticed a hospital band with the hospital's name, the room number, and the name Michael Brown. It seems he's one of the kids admitted here. Round and round, round and round. As I kept blowing on it to make it spin, he became interested in the pinwheel. His face lit up with a smile, a stark contrast to his earlier crying, and he reached out his hands towards it, giggling. This one's on the house. Here you go. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry. After I gave the pinwheel as a gift, she expressed her gratitude with a shrinking demeanor. It's rare these days to meet someone so humble. I sent them off with a smile, impressed and glad that didn't escalate. The line at the register ended with that family. Another staff member was taking care of restocking. It looked like I could take a breather for now. Just then, a woman rushed up to me. I thought she wanted to pay, but she didn't seem to be holding any items. That was amazing. He stopped crying so quickly. She's a doctor from this hospital, wearing a blue scrub topped with a white coat. She had a red name tag hanging around her neck. I remember she's the new doctor who recently joined. I'm a doctor, but kids get scared of me. They start crying, saying, "Mule, scary face." She laughed, scratching her cheek. Despite her lovely smile, there's nothing particularly frightening about her. She's probably just so focused on her work as a doctor that her face stiffens up on the spot. That must be tough. Glancing at her name tag, I saw emergency medicine written on it. I see working in emergency medicine means dealing with a wide range of ages, from adults to children. She might also struggle with issues like she mentioned. I'm not exactly a favorite among children. Without little tricks like them, I'd be at a loss. Saying this, I pulled out a plastic bag from under the counter to show her. Inside, there were several pinwheels, paper-made toys, and candies. All of these are intended for situations like the one earlier. That's not true at all, she said, shaking her head and denying my words. You're always loved by everyone, kids and elders alike. As a cashier in the store, her eyes sparkled as she looked straight at me. The intensity was overwhelming, and I couldn't help but feel taken aback. Really? You think so? Yes, absolutely. The nurses say they find your service comforting. I'm envious of that skill, she said with a slight laugh. Then, with a graceful motion, she picked up a ham sandwich and a can of coffee near the register and placed them on the counter. Could you please check these out for me? Feeling awkward about being praised for my customer service, which I hadn't given much thought to, I went ahead and processed her purchase as usual. I made a point of sticking to my routine while handling her transaction. It felt like I was being audited. Feeling oddly tense, I bagged her items and handed them over. She smiled again, expressing her gratitude. Thank you very much. As she was about to leave the register, flipping her lab coat, she stopped and turned back to me. All right. My name is Olivia Smith. Let's have a chat again sometime. Sure, I'm John. After exchanging names, she waved contentedly and left the shop. Well, that's an interesting connection. I've already got someone special in my heart. I just hope this interaction with the beautiful doctor doesn't lead to any strange rumors. With that thought, I resumed my work as if to dismiss such arrogant notions. Since that day, Dr. Smith has made a point of greeting me every time she visits the shop. It's not unwelcome, and having a bit of non-work-related chat is a nice break. This had been the case for some time, but she engages with other customers in line, either initiating conversations or responding to them. No dessert today. That's right. It would be too much to have it every day. This was the veteran nurse who seems to have finally overcome her cravings. Dr. Smith gets along well with her too. Her communication skills are impressively high, making her fit into the workplace so well that it's hard to believe she's a newcomer. Thank you for always keeping it clean. Much appreciated. Not at all, doctor. You too. Hello. No classes at the university today. Hello. I have a late lecture today. She greets everyone with a smile, from the janitors cleaning the hallways to the university students working part-time in the shop. Hey, cut on the job. Don't get too carried away. One night, just as it was about to become a new day, I had some errands in the pediatric ward. As I walked down the hallway towards my destination, I noticed an unusual noise for the late hour. What's going on? Prioritizing the commotion over my own errand, I headed towards the source of the voices. Approaching, I realized the noises were coming from a particular room. This situation didn't seem normal. Michael. When I got about 10 meters away from the room where the commotion was happening, I saw a woman sprinting around the corner of the hallway at full speed. Wait, haven't I seen her somewhere? Michael, hang in there. The next thing I heard was Dr. Smith's voice. She was driven by anxiety, a stark contrast to her usual demeanor. Excuse me for a moment. Curious, I peeked into the center of the commotion and saw several doctors and nurses treating a child. A familiar red windmill was decorated at the patient's bedside. I see the person from earlier in the store, Michael. It must be Michael who visited the store yesterday. Of course, I'm concerned for anyone in distress, but it's especially worrying when it's a familiar face. Without thinking, I reflexively jumped into the hospital room. Michael. Dr. Smith's frantic shouts caught my attention. Her hands were trembling, and it seemed like she couldn't maintain her usual composure. Dr. Smith was pale and confused, holding a thin tube in her hands. Excuse me for a moment. I snatched some documents related to Michael from a nearby nurse. Hey, who are you? The surprised nurse's words didn't reach my ears. I skimmed through the file. Michael had asthma and was hospitalized for it. The tube won't fit. Dr. Smith was struggling, and Michael seemed to be in pain. He had a cup-like cough, and epiglottitis was suspected. No wonder she was having trouble with intubation. The swelling narrows the trachea, requiring a certain level of skill. Nurse, please call a pediatrician immediately. Yes. With no time to worry about the sudden outsider, the nurse dashed off, ignoring me, but would help arrive in time. In such a condition, breathing difficulties could arise at any moment. Actually, he might already be experiencing them. Thinking this made me restless, and I impulsively called out to Dr. Smith. Let me try. I can do it. Why are you here? She seemed not to have noticed my entrance, focused as she was on the situation at hand. Let me try. Even though you say that, John, you work in the store, right? Quickly, Michael is still suffering. Dr. Smith was even more confused by my words. Indeed, I work at the store. Well, no wonder she's confused. I have a medical license. I almost violently took the tube from Dr. Smith, who stood there frozen. Then I proceeded to insert it into the trachea of Michael, who was in distress. It was significantly swollen, indeed challenging. Without real field experience, it would be tough to manage. Well, John, you don't just stand there admiring. Get the medication and oxygen ready. After completing the intubation, I urgently directed her and the remaining nurses. I could feel their questioning glances, wondering who I was, but time was of the essence. It seemed like everyone there shared a sense of urgency. A little while later, his condition seemed to have improved slightly. The peak of his distress had passed, and his coughing was gradually subsiding. Just then, the nurse who had dashed out earlier burst back in. Dr. Wilson, over here. Oh, the pediatrician. Dr. Wilson entered the room, and when he saw me, his eyes widened. It also seemed like he gave a slight smile at the same time. I'll take over from here. He stood by Michael's side and quickly assessed the situation. Then he continued speaking to me. Thank you, John. His treatment continued. As an experienced doctor, his skills were evident. Each action was quick yet precise, and his instructions to the nurses were clear. Let's leave the rest to him. Yes, encouraged Dr. Smith. We both left the room. I leaned against the wall in the hallway, waiting for her to come down. Though I intended to wait, she spoke sooner than I expected. Really, how pathetic I am. Tears welled up in her eyes, and her voice trembled. Intubation in that state is difficult. It's understandable for a novice doctor with little experience not to manage it. It's about gaining experience from situations like this and improving. No matter how much you study and train to become a doctor, the actual field can differ significantly from the ideal. I, too, have felt this starkly in the past. But I couldn't do anything for him as he suffered. That's what frustrates me. The tears that had been welling up fell. Every doctor has their specialty. Even Dr. Wilson, an expert in pediatrics, would probably find neurosurgery challenging, and I doubt he can perform heart transplants. So don't beat yourself up. It's about finding your strengths going forward. I intended to comfort her with these words, but she was still crying. That might be true, but it's still frustrating. I can always make children smile more. Can I save the suffering ones? Maybe I really can't do anything after all. I regretted my words a bit, yet in situations like this, what's needed isn't advice. It's words that affirm the person who is feeling down. That's not true, Dr. Smith. I deliberately addressed her with a title, Doctor, to protect her dignity as a doctor, because I thought she might otherwise become self-critical. Your instructions were precise. Sending someone to call Dr. Wilson was the right decision. It's fair to say that your judgment saved Michael. After I spoke those words, she wiped her tears with a handkerchief and whispered a quiet thank you. At the same time, she nodded repeatedly as if savoring my words. Then she asked me a question. John, you were actually a doctor, right? A life-saving one at that. To perform such a difficult procedure flawlessly. Having somewhat recovered, she now seemed interested in my story. With such impressive skills, why do you choose to hide them and work in the store? As I spoke, her face, without me realizing it, brightened up. As usual, if I had to point out anything different, it would be that her eyes were bloodshot. I hesitated about whether to share my circumstances. I hadn't done anything wrong, nor did I have anything to hide. I was just afraid that talking about it might reopen my own wounds. But brooding over it forever wouldn't start anything new. Come with me. Deciding to open up, I asked her to follow me. Turning around, I started walking down the hallway. Her footsteps echoed as she followed behind me. We wove through the hospital, and I led us to a certain room. The room's lights were off. As we entered, I said, "This is a private room for a bed." An impatient right. "Yes," as she said. A single girl slept by the window at the far end of the room. Only the light by the bedside was on, and 2 folding chairs were set up. "You must be tired. This is going to be a long story." After prompting her to sit, she did so with a puzzled look. Then I turned to the sleeping girl and gently touched her face, placing my palm on her cheek. I stroked under her eye with my thumb. As expected, she showed no response. Amelia Taylor. Seeing the name on the wristband, she seemed to grasp what I was about to say. "Could this child be yours?" John Jess. Amelia, 3 years old. My daughter. She'd been in a coma since birth due to an accident during delivery. She's never opened her eyes, not even once. As I revealed the truth, she covered her mouth, a look of shock crossing her face. When Amelia was born, my wife, Emma, lost her life. She had a placental abruption, and an emergency surgery was required. The response was quick, but the uterus didn't contract, and she bled out. Amelia was deprived of oxygen, leaving her brain damaged and in a coma from the moment she was born. While Emma was fighting for her life, I was swamped with an entirely different task. I only learned of the severity of my wife's childbirth after everything had ended. At that time, I was a busy emergency medicine physician. That day, too, I was performing emergency surgery on a patient from a traffic accident. Phew, that was close. Yeah, John, you're as skilled as they say. I'm not really. It's all thanks to the support from my seniors. After the surgery, I had such conversations with the senior doctors, but the cheerful atmosphere suddenly changed. The sound of hurried footsteps approached, and then the door was flung open. A breathless nurse with tear-filled eyes looked at me. "Dr. Taylor, please come quickly." I had been notified about entering the delivery room, so I was planning to head there soon, thinking casually that my child must have been born. However, her expression filled me with dread. Her face was far from celebratory. Following the nurse, I found Emma peacefully asleep. Her face was serene, showing no signs of distress. Holding her cold, white hand, I knelt down and wept loudly, a grown man crying unabashedly and shedding large tears. "Emma, Emma." A large stain formed on the sheets. I shouted until my voice was hoarse, but she never woke up to chide me for being too loud. That day, the patient I was in charge of miraculously pulled through. I was thanked profusely by both the patient and their family, but I couldn't genuinely accept their gratitude. It wasn't that I couldn't accept my wife's passing. I just wished I could have fought alongside her until the end. I wasn't there for her final moments. She never got to see Amelia after she was born, and Amelia has never seen her parents or the world, remaining asleep. Our family was torn apart, suspended in midair. Since then, my spirit was broken. I couldn't work as a doctor anymore. Amelia's primary physician became Dr. Rodriguez, a pediatrician and my mentor. I couldn't bear the thought of our family remaining divided. I decided to stay close to her by working at the hospital store. Thanks to Dr. Wilson's kindness, I'm allowed to stay overnight with her a few times a month. It just so happened that this coincided with the commotion involving Michael. "I'm sorry for asking without knowing your situation." Dr. Smith, sitting next to me, fidgeted with an apologetic look. I was about to reassure her that it was okay, but she was the first to speak. "But I want you to return to medicine, John." "Excuse me?" Her unexpected words took me by surprise. She then shared her past with me, looking downcast. "John, I lost my best friend in an accident." They had plans for the next day and even for the upcoming holiday, but those plans never came to fruition. I wanted to reduce the number of people dying from sudden accidents. That's why I chose to become an emergency medicine doctor. Her usually gentle demeanor was filled with determination and strong emotion. But after the incident with Michael, I realized how inexperienced I still am. That's why. "John." "What?" I was startled by her sudden approach and raised my voice unintentionally. It echoed down the hallway, likely causing a disturbance. "I wish for you to return as a senior in emergency medicine. Please let me call you my master." "Master." Her unexpected words left me astonished. Despite my shock, she continued, "I've always felt a sense of urgency. Despite having lofty goals, my skills didn't match up. I was trying too hard to fit in to cover that up. To me, her behavior had always seemed natural. I thought it was just her being herself, but it seems I was mistaken. That's why I envy your skill, John. If you're willing to return to medicine." "I'm sorry, Dr. Smith." Her words truly meant a lot to me, but the trauma from that day still held me back. I can't sort out my feelings yet. "Is that so? But I won't give up. I'll keep asking you until you're sick of it," she declared emphatically. Weeks passed since that day. I was working as usual at the store, handling the queue of customers at the register when it happened. Whoa, what was that? A loud thump sounded. Unable to stop the register, I continued my work, albeit distracted. "Did you hear that noise just now?" "Yes, it was quite the impact. I wonder what happened." "That's the thing, you see," an older lady mentioned. There had been a traffic accident on the main road in front of the hospital. Apparently, a bus and a large truck had a head-on collision. Several compact cars were involved, turning it into a major disaster. Some people saw the victims being brought to this hospital. "John, please, We need your help. We're short-staffed. Dr. Smith arrived at the store out of breath. Coincidentally, there were orthopedic, neurology, and cardiac surgery conferences today, so there were fewer doctors in the hospital. Wait, I have no time. Let's go. Hey, Dr. Smith. Despite my reluctance, she firmly dragged me to the scene. Just then, a college student working part-time arrived. Hey, take over the register, please. While instructing him, Dr. Smith led me away without further resistance. People were being brought in one after another, and the hospital was reaching its bed capacity. It felt like a battlefield, and I was genuinely shaken. John. Perfect timing. I need you for the next patient. Daniel. A fellow emergency medicine doctor I used to work with. He was surprised to see me for a moment, but quickly got back to his duties after relaying what was needed. Instructions were thrown at me before I could even prepare myself. There was no time for second thoughts. My body moved on its own. In such circumstances, the patient brought in was a young pregnant woman. Her belly was significantly swollen, and a man was calling her name from a distance. This must be some kind of trial. Needless to say, the patient assigned to me was the pregnant woman. She had a laceration on her right arm from glass shards and seemed to have a fracture. Worst of all, there were signs of a severe blow to her abdomen. Immediate treatment and a C-section were needed to save both the mother and the child. Damn, why am I remembering this now? Emma's face flashed through my mind. Bound by that vision, I involuntarily stopped my emergency treatment. John, Dr. Smith, who had come to assist, snapped me out of it. Shaking off the distracting thoughts, I focused on treating the patient. I regained my composure and gave instructions to the nurses. We need to treat the arm and perform a C-section simultaneously. Get the obstetrician here. Yes, cries, groans, and shouts filled the air in the waiting area. Amidst all that, I found myself in an oddly quiet operating room, beginning to suture the pregnant woman's arm wound. It was a surgery where every second counted, a moment of intense urgency. My hands trembled with a familiar kind of anxiety I hadn't felt in a while, but I had no choice but to do what I could. Reassuring myself, I managed to make the final stitch. The bleeding stopped as the wound closed. The fracture seemed like it could be fixed with manual reduction. Relieved, I wiped the sweat from my forehead, and almost simultaneously, I heard a baby's first cry nearby. The baby is born safely, the obstetrician announced. In the operating room, we burst into a collective relief. The patient's vital signs stabilized. Thank goodness. Amid the cheers, I quietly shed tears. The accident was caused by the truck driver falling asleep at the wheel. He had a chronic condition and had taken medication with drowsiness as a side effect. He's hospitalized in a local hospital now, receiving treatment. The pregnant woman I operated on is also on her way to recovery. Her baby was in the ICU, but was soon moved back to a regular ward. Though her dominant arm is broken, making childcare challenging, her husband seems kind, which is reassuring for now. While walking down the hallway with these thoughts, I happened to run into that family. The husband was holding the baby with his wife beside him. Dear Taylor, that's you, isn't it? Yes, I'm John Taylor. I introduced myself. The couple's solemn faces lit up. Their baby was sleeping in the father's arms. Thank you so much for everything. We'll never forget your kindness. It's nothing. I was just doing my duty as a doctor, I said. Despite that, they kept thanking me over and over again. Seeing the lively couple, I felt proud to be a doctor. That night, the hospital had calmed down and returned to normal. In a room, I spoke to my sleeping princess. That's what happened. Impressive, right? Daddy did well. Of course, there was no response. Suddenly feeling empty, I was reminded of the past, the funeral, dealing with relatives, and above all, the sorrow of loss that prevented me from celebrating Amelia's birth. This guilt was the main factor hindering my return. Amelia, would you support me if I said I wanted to return to being a doctor? I looked at my daughter. Haha, your eyes and mouth are just like Emma's. I'm looking forward to the day you wake up. As I gently stroked her head, whispering to her, I caught a slight movement of her finger out of the corner of my eye. I grabbed her hand and called out, Amelia, Amelia. But there was no response. Well, things don't work out that conveniently, do they? I was excited for a moment, but I quickly regained my composure and sat back down in the chair beside the bed. At a glance, her face seemed to be smiling. Eventually, I chose to return to emergency medicine. Dr. Smith, who calls me master despite my protests, Daniel always laughs, saying she's like a shadow following me around. Daniel, JN is not a goldfish. That's right. He's an orca. Despite the collective virals, Dr. Smith doesn't seem to mind my working hours, and shifts are flexible due to Amelia, which I'm grateful for, but also feel guilty about. I intend to do my best with what I can. It seems like Amelia's hand movements have been increasing. Perhaps as I take steps forward, she is following suit. She can't walk or talk yet, but I always dream of going home with her someday. Recovery from despair takes time. How long it takes depends on the individual's mental state. Perhaps I've taken quite some time. For about 3 years, I had averted my eyes from my profession as a doctor, but I have recovered now. For Amelia's sake, I can't stay stagnant forever. What's lost won't return, but memories live on in the heart. Cherishing them, I vow to look forward with hope, remembering my wife's smile. That was my pledge. Keith, how are things doing with foods in FS? Shane, it's almost there, I see. I will definitely finish it today. I am currently leaving for my appointment at 2:00 p.m. for a meeting. I'm in charge of Thompson Foods, and the discussions are going well, but then I'll show up. It's okay. Okay. Keith is my name. I have 4 years of sales experience with a kitchen equipment manufacturer. I've been attempting to get a contract with Thompson Foods, a significant player in the food market, for the past month. Now that the deal is almost finalized, my boss, Shane, who a year ago couldn't even arrange an appointment with Thompson, and threw the whole thing on me, appears to want to take over again. However, my employer, Shane, and I end up going to FS and Foods to haggle because I can't really say no to him. We were shown to the 7th floor production control department after providing our company name and information at the ground floor reception. I greeted Kevin, the head of manufacturing management at Thompson Foods, and said, "Thank you for making time for this meeting despite your busy schedule." He appeared a little more at ease than normal. "Keith, I've been waiting for you. Today, I have a request. Mr. Thompson, our president, would also like to attend the meeting today. Is that okay?" I said, "Yes, I understand," and my pulse began to race when I learned that Mr. Thompson would be attending the meeting in person. Mr. Thompson came in as the door slowly opened. He turned to me and grinned as I hesitantly greeted him. "So, you're Keith," he said. "I've heard that you were able to convince our big demon." "Big demon," he laughed and said, "Ha, that's Kevin's nickname. We receive salespeople from different companies, but there wouldn't be enough time in the day to meet with them all. We have therefore made the decision to only meet with businesses that Kevin is comfortable with." This must have been a difficult journey. Mr. Thompson grinned as he stated this, and Kevin, who appeared to be rather serious, briefly smiled. Kevin said, "Shane, you have a good and strong junior on your team." The meeting then started. We were able to get a new kitchen equipment contract with Mr. Thompson's help. I was relieved to get up when Mr. Thompson unexpectedly extended an invitation. "My youngest daughter turns 20 on the 2nd Sunday of next month. Would you like to attend the birthday party we're throwing, if that works for you?" A birthday party for your daughter. Attending the birthday party of President's daughter I'd never met seemed out of place for ordinary employees like us. As I was thinking of declining, Shane responded, "Of course, absolutely. Both of us will be delighted to attend." Mr. Thompson was overjoyed, leaving no room for me to decline. After leaving Thompson Foods headquarters, I complained to Shane, "Shane, why did you say we'd attend a birthday party for a president's daughter we've never met? Aren't we out of our depth?" "Don't be silly," Shane grinned smugly. "If we bring a timely gift to the party and get his daughter to like us, it could be a real stroke of luck." I was internally dumbfounded, thinking such a thing was impossible, but I couldn't say anything. A few days later, an actual invitation to the daughter's birthday party from Mr. Thompson arrived, and I resigned myself to the fact that I couldn't decline. The invitation had the name of his daughter, who would be turning 20 next month, Emily. Oh, what kind of person is she? This is tough. I have no idea what to get for a woman I've never met, let alone a president's daughter. As I sat in my living room chair pondering, my sister Julia playfully tapped me on the back. "Hey, you're thinking out loud." "You heard that?" "Haha, it seems I was talking to myself a bit too loudly." I chuckled awkwardly. Julia, perhaps out of curiosity, sat down next to me to hear more. "It's rare to see you struggling with a gift for a girl." "Yeah, that's right. I've been invited to a client's daughter's birthday party, but since I've never met her, I have no idea what she likes." "In that case, isn't this the perfect opportunity to show off your special talent?" Julia's words reminded me of my hobby of making music boxes. I became fascinated with music boxes during a field trip in my junior year of high school to a music box museum. After researching, I found out I could make them myself, and it became my sole hobby. With hand-crank music boxes, you can play your favorite songs by punching holes in a metal sheet, known as the movement inside the music box. Come to think of it, Julia is about the same age as Emily. Hey Julia, can you tell me what kind of songs 20-year-olds like these days? Well, maybe songs from popular dramas or trendy NM soundtracks. Those usually have tracks that everyone knows. Julia played me some songs she downloaded on her phone. For the music box I've been working on, which can change tunes midway, I took quite some time to select and create sheets for 3 songs. The outcome was great. I made the box a special one. I crafted the box and fitted the mechanical parts inside at a familiar workshop. I used a laser engraving machine to imprint musical staves and notes on the sides of the box. I even made holes in the round parts of the notes so the music box's sound would emanate from there. After about 3 weeks, the music box was complete. On the day of the birthday party, I headed to Mr. Thompson's house as mentioned in the invitation. Entering the gate, a beautiful garden came into view. The well-maintained bushes and flower beds were impressive. I exchanged greetings with 2 helpers at the entrance and was led to the living room. The moment I saw the luxurious marble dining table in the spacious living room, easily over 40 square meters, I felt a bit intimidated. The guests were all dressed in elegant, high-end suits and dresses. It was easy to spot Shane, and I felt quite out of place. All I wanted was to give the gift and leave as soon as possible. While I was thinking this, the party started, and Mr. Thompson stood in a prominent spot in the room to begin his greeting. Thank you all for gathering here today to celebrate my youngest daughter Emily's birthday. Amidst the applause, Kevin raised his glass. Let's toast to Emily's 20th birthday. Next to Mr. Thompson, a beautiful woman with long black hair reaching down her back bowed gracefully. She must be his daughter. After some greetings, the guests began presenting their birthday gifts to Emily. There were exquisite bouquets, brand name bags, and jewelry, all appearing quite luxurious. As I watched, Shane also handed Emily a gift. It looked like a bracelet from a famous brand. After handing it over, Shane noticed me and came over. What did you bring, Keith? Well, my gift isn't something I bought, actually. I make music boxes as a hobby, so I brought a handmade music box for today's gift. I said, showing him the paper bag with the music box. Shane snatched it up. "You're being incredibly rude. A cheap handmade music box as a gift for the president's daughter? What were you thinking? Apologize to Emily. Go buy a proper gift right now." Stunned by his sudden outburst, I couldn't respond as Shane yelled at me. I hadn't expected to be scolded at the party, but maybe giving a handmade music box to a woman I was meeting for the first time was indeed impolite. Speechless and ashamed, I could only stand there, head down. The living room fell silent, a tense atmosphere hanging in the air. Then Emily approached us. Excuse me, is that paper bag for me as a birthday present? Could you please give it to me? I want to cherish the feelings of everyone who gave me a gift." Hearing this, Shane hesitantly handed over the paper bag he had taken from me to Emily. She received it and turned towards me with a bright smile. "Thank you so much. I've never received a handmade music box before. I'm delighted. May I open it?" "Yes, please do," I managed to answer nervously. Emily, still smiling, took the music box out of the paper bag. "Wow, is this handmade? It's incredibly beautiful," she said, fascinated by the music box as she picked up the sheet music included. "This is amazing. How does it work?" "Well, you open this part and set the sheet inside, then close the lid and turn the handle," I explained, feeling a bit happy as I walked past Shane to show Emily how the music box works. As the handle turned, a gentle metallic sound filled the room, and the previously tense atmosphere in the living room seemed to warm up a bit. "That's incredible. I love this song. It sounds so beautiful," Emily said joyfully as the song finished playing. She even clapped her hands, and her applause quickly spread throughout the room. "Emily seems to like the music box gift the most," said Mr. Thompson, who came over smiling at Emily and then turned to me with kind words. "Keith, seeing my daughter so innocently happy like this, I wonder how many years it's been. Thank you for such a wonderful gift. While making this music box, you must have thought of Emily, whom you've never met, and put your heart into it." Emily seemed to truly enjoy it, playing each of the 3 music sheets I had included, changing them one by one, and happily turning the handle. "I'm really glad you liked it," I said, as Shane muttered behind me. I went out of my way to buy a $300 bracelet, only to be outdone by such a cheap-looking gift. How embarrassing. Suddenly, Emily's expression turned displeased, and she walked briskly over to Shane. "What's your name, please?" "Shane." "Shane, thank you for the bracelet, but I'm sorry that what I like is a cheap-looking music box. This music box has just become my treasure, and you're belittling my treasure as cheap-looking." Confronted by Emily's forceful gaze, Shane was completely taken aback. "No, I didn't mean that. I'm terribly sorry." After bowing deeply, seemingly too embarrassed to stay, Shane hastily left the room and didn't return to the party. Then came Monday, the start of a new week. I had a meeting scheduled at Fops and Foods, so I tried to involve Shane. "I'm good. I'll leave it to you," Shane said with a wry smile, and since then, he avoided any involvement with Fops and Foods. As for me, Emily had approached me on my way out of the birthday party. "I'd like to learn how to make music sheets myself. Would you mind teaching me?" Emily really seemed to like the music box. I couldn't decline such a delightful request, so now I spend every weekend at Mr. Thompson's house teaching her how to make music sheets. Emily is quick to learn and eager, making teaching her a rewarding experience. Once she learns to make the music sheets herself, she wants to try making the box part too. So, I plan to continue being her music box tutor for a while. I wonder what kind of melody she will create and how her beautiful smile will look when she completes her own music box. I'm really looking forward to it. But on the other hand, I can't help feeling a little sad that once Emily learns to make music boxes on her own, we may not spend as much time together. I want to see her smile more, but like a music box that eventually comes to an end, I know these happy times are finite, I decide not to think too much about it and do my best in what I can. With this in mind, I visit Mr. Thompson's house as usual, where, unusually, he is relaxing on the living room sofa, listening to the sounds of the music box coming from Emily's room. It's a beautiful sound. I'd like to learn how to make it myself if I had the time, Mr. Thompson said. Emily seems to have taken a real liking to you. I'm honored, I replied nervously. He continued, Thank you for a birthday gift that surpasses even a $10,000 purse or jewelry. I want to express my gratitude again. It's a joy for me, and my wife is thrilled too to see Emily so engrossed in something. How about joining us for dinner at our house sometime? As I stood there, stunned by the invitation, Emily came downstairs from her room. Thank you, Dad. I've always wanted to properly thank him for teaching me, she said, seemingly having overheard our conversation. Emily joined in, trying to seal the promise. Don't mention it. Consider it my fee for being a music box tutor. There's still so much I want to learn, and it's going to be a long-term commitment, right, teacher? Seeing Emily's mischievous smile, there was no way I could decline the invitation. And just like that, I found myself with a standing invitation to Mr. Thompson's house, not just for teaching music boxes. Absolutely. His daughter has a thing for you, big bro. Show me her picture next time, my sister Julia said with a grin when I told her at home. She's the daughter of a president and a client at that. So what? Go for it. Catch a big break. I want a beautiful sister-in-law, she teased. The word marrying up reminded me of something Shane had said. By the way, when I mentioned that I have a sister, Emily said she'd like to meet you. As I said this with a sigh, Julia's eyes lit up. I'd love to meet her too. Plus, it's a perfect chance to find out what movies and places she likes, right? Come on, you like Emily, don't you? Well, yeah, but our social statuses are worlds apart. Don't be so defeatist. If she loves your handmade music boxes that much, I don't see any problem. After that, we plan to go see a movie together, the three of us. Emily really took a liking to my sister Julia, even inviting her to visit her home any time. Furthermore, going to the movies with Julia led to me being able to spend time alone with Emily on weekends. Despite the usual nerves, we found out we had a lot in common, like our taste in music and movies, and we were able to laugh and relax together. Maybe one day, I might muster the courage to confess and start dating her. I secretly entertained the thought that such a day might not just be a dream.